You want to be a lag kid, a loose aggressive maniac? You gotta understand this, pre-flop ain't no time for timidity, it's a battleground. You set the tone, you control the action. Make a mistake here, you're playing catch up the whole hand. Think of it like this, pre-flop is like sizing up your opponent in a boxing ring. You're throwing jabs, feeling them out. You're looking for weakness, for fear. You want them to know you're not afraid to fight for every pot. Now, I'm not saying go all in with any 2 cards. You gotta be smart, pick your spots. But you've gotta be aggressive, you gotta put pressure on your opponents, make them second guess themselves. The key to pre-flop lag play is simple, controlled chaos. You want your opponents to think you're wild, unpredictable. But behind the aggression, there's a method to the madness. You're building a story, setting the stage for what's to come. Okay, so you want to play like a maniac? Fine. But even maniacs need weapons. In poker, your weapons are your starting hands. A good L-ag pre-flop range is wider than a tight player's, but it ain't the Wild West out here. You can't just play any 2 cards and expect to win. Here's a tipstick to strong hands and hands with potential. Think big pairs, big aces, suited connectors. These hands give you a fighting chance if you get called. What you don't want are weak aces, king 10 offsuit, that kind of junk. Those hands are losers, even for a L-ag. Remember, it's not just about the cards you play, it's about the cards you fold. Knowing when to fold is just as important as knowing when to bet. Even a L-ag has to lay down a hand sometimes. Listen up, kid. Position is everything in poker. It's like having the high ground in a battle. The later your position, the more information you have, the better your decisions will be. As a L-ag, you gotta adjust your pre-flop range based on your position. In early position, you gotta be more selective. Stick to your premium hands and some strong speculative hands. But as you get closer to the button, you can start opening up your range. You can play more hands, put more pressure on your opponents. Why? Because you get to see what everyone else does before you have to act. Think of it like this. In early position, you're going in blind. You don't know what the other players are holding. But in late position, you're fighting with your eyes open. You can see their moves, anticipate their actions. Now we're talking my language aggression. The 3-bet is the L-ag's best friend. It's a statement. It says, I'm here to play and I'm not afraid of you. When you 3-bet, you're not just raising, you're re-raising. You're putting maximum pressure on your opponent, forcing them to make a tough decision. Now you can't just 3-bet with any 2 cards, you gotta pick your spots. But when you find a good spot, don't be afraid to put the hammer down. Here's a scenario. You're on the button, and a tight player raises from early position. What do? You 3-bet. Why? Because tight players usually raise with strong hands. By 3-betting, you're putting them in a tough spot. They have to decide whether to call with their strong hand or fold and give you the pot. The 3-bet is a powerful weapon in the L-ag arsenal. Use it wisely, and you'll strike fear into the hearts of your opponents. Listen up, kid. Just because you're playing loose aggressive doesn't mean you get a free pass to make stupid mistakes. One of the biggest traps lag players fall into is playing too many hands. Remember, even a lag has to fold sometimes. Don't be afraid to lay down a hand if you're beat. Another common mistake is chasing draws too aggressively. Yeah, it's exciting to hit your flush draw on the river, but more often than not, you're just throwing money away. And for crying out loud, pay attention to your opponents. Just because you're playing like a maniac doesn't mean they are. Watch their betting patterns, their body language. Are they scared? Are they bluffing? The key to avoiding these pitfalls is simple. Discipline. I know, it's a dirty word, but even a L-ag needs a little discipline to be successful. Section 6. Mastering the mind games. Exploiting your image. Being a lag is about more than just betting and raising, it's about creating an image, a persona. You want your opponents to think you're crazy, unpredictable. Once you've established that image, you can start to exploit it, you can use it to bluff more effectively, to get away with thinner value bets. Think of it this way. If you've been raising every hand for the last hour, your opponents are going to be more likely to believe you when you have a strong hand. They'll be afraid to call your bets, even if they have a decent hand themselves. But be careful, kid. Don't let your image become a crutch. You can't rely on it all the time. You still gotta be able to play poker, to read your opponents, to make the right decisions. Mastering the mind games is what separates the good lags from the great ones. It's about understanding the psychology of the game, knowing how your opponents think, and using that knowledge to your advantage. Section 7. Bankroll management, staying alive in the L-ag jungle. Let's face it, kid. Playing lag is a roller coaster. You're gonna have big wins, and you're gonna have big losses. That's just the nature of the beast. That's why bankroll management is crucial for any L-ag player. You gotta protect your bankroll, make sure you have enough ammunition to weather the storms. Here's a simple rule. Never play with more money than you can afford to lose. Seems obvious, right? But you'd be surprised how many players break this rule and end up broke. Another tip: set aside a separate bankroll for your poker playing. Keep it separate from your rent money, your grocery money, your I need to eat this week money. Remember, poker is a marathon, not a sprint. The goal is to stay in the game long enough to hit that big score. So play smart, manage your bankroll, and don't be afraid to walk away from the table when you're ahead. Section 8. From beginner to brat, practice makes perfect, but not quite. Look, kid, I ain't gonna lie to you. Becoming a successful lag player takes time, dedication, and a whole lot of guts. You're gonna make mistakes along the way. You're gonna lose some hands, some sessions, maybe even your entire bankroll a few times. But that's all part of the learning process. The key is to learn from your mistakes, to analyze your play, and to constantly strive to improve. Don't be afraid to study the game, read books, watch videos, talk to other players. The more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to handle the challenges of playing lag poker. And most importantly, never stop having fun. Remember why you started playing this crazy game in the first place. It's supposed to be enjoyable. So get out there, kid, play loose, play aggressive, and don't be afraid to make some noise at the table. You never know, you might just become the next poker brat. Section 9. Embrace the chaos, unleashing your inner lag. Playing lag isn't for the faint of heart. It's a high-risk, high-reward style that demands fearlessness, creativity, and a touch of madness. But for those who dare to embrace the chaos, the rewards can be immense. Remember, being a lag is about more than just winning money. It's about dictating the action, keeping your opponents on their toes, and having a blast while doing it. So go out there, unleash your inner lag, and show the poker world what you're made of. Just don't blame me when you send your opponents running for the hills.